So, on their latest earnings call, Duolingo announced something kinda strange. It wasn't about profits, wasn't about subscribers, it was a huge pivot in their entire game plan. We're gonna break down why this super successful company is basically choosing to risk it all for a massive long-term bet.
And really, that's the big question here, right? Duolingo is a huge success story. They're profitable, they're growing like crazy, millions of people use them every day. So why on earth would they intentionally hit the brakes on their own money-making machine? That's the puzzle we're gonna solve.
Okay, so here's how we're gonna break it all down. First, we'll look at the big pivot itself. Then, we'll dive into this idea of choosing growth over profit. We'll explore why AI is forcing them to do this right now, see how chess, of all things, is proving their point, and finally, we'll unpack this massive bet on reaching 1 billion users.
All right, so what is this big pivot? Well, at its heart, it's all about rebalancing. They're moving away from little experiments designed to make a quick buck, and instead, they are going all in on two things: growing their user base and making the app a much better way to learn.
And you've got to understand, they're not doing this because they're in trouble. Not at all. Duolingo is in an incredibly strong position. We're talking nearly $1.2 billion in bookings and a super healthy 29% profit margin. They are choosing to make this move from a position of power, and that makes this whole thing even more interesting. So what does this whole growth over profit thing actually look like day to day? Well, Duolingo is always running tests, and what they've found is that sometimes a test that makes them more money can actually push users away, and that's the trade-off they're deciding to handle differently now.
You know, the CEO, Louis von Ahn, he laid out this really simple example. Let's say free users get 25 energy units a day. Now, Duolingo knows that if they drop that to 24, they'd make more money because more people would pay to get more energy, but it would also annoy some people enough that they'd just leave the app. The old Duolingo might have made that trade, but the new Duolingo, they're saying no. They'll take the small hit on revenue to keep their users happy and on the platform.
Okay, so why now? Why mess with a winning formula when everything's going so well? Well, the answer, in 2 letters, is AI. The folks at Duolingo are convinced that we are at this totally unique moment in history where AI is about to change education forever, and they plan to be at the very front of that change. And just listen to this quote from the CEO. It tells you everything you need to know about how big they're thinking. They're not just trying to make a better app. They believe they can use AI to build something that teaches better than anything in human history. We're talking as good as a personal human tutor, but for everyone, everywhere. It's a huge ambition.
And that kind of ambition, it leads to a number like this: billions. There are 135 million monthly users right now. That's just the start. They believe if they can actually pull this off, if they can build the world's best AI teacher, they won't be counting their users in the millions. They'll be counting them in the billions. That's the real prize here.
And look, this isn't just some theory they have on a whiteboard. We're already seeing this product-first strategy work in some really surprising ways. It's proving that this long-term focus can pay off big time. And the absolute best example of this is chess. Yes, chess. The course they just launched has become the fastest-growing course they have ever released. It has already zoomed past their math and music courses in just a few months. I mean, to put that into perspective, the chess course is growing faster than even their main language courses did back in the day. And what's maybe even more important, the early numbers show that people stick with chess just a little bit more than they stick with learning languages. It's proof that if you build a great product, people will come, and they'll stay. So the big takeaway here is that this investment, it's not just talk. It's leading to some huge product updates coming next year. We're talking bilingual video calls for language beginners, a full player versus player mode for that crazy popular chess course, the entire K-12 math curriculum, a totally redone music course, and this one is big, getting the top 9 languages to a level where you could actually get a job with your skills. Okay, but let's be real. This massive bet they're making on AI and long-term growth, it's not without its risks. There are some really big questions out there about competition and whether Duolingo's whole reason for existing might just disappear. I mean, this is the elephant in the room, right? With tools like ChatGPT getting smarter every single day and real-time translation becoming a reality on our phones, is anyone even going to need an app like Duolingo in a few years? Well, Duolingo has some pretty solid answers for these big fears. On the one hand, you have the threat from ChatGPT. Their answer? Learning a language isn't about asking one-off questions. It takes years of daily practice and a real curriculum to keep you engaged. And that's what Duolingo is built for. Then there's the threat of real-time translation.
To that, they say, look, most of our users are learning as a hobby, kind of like chess, or they need to be truly fluent for a job. A simple translation tool just doesn't cut it for either of those. So when you put it all together, what do you get? You get a super strong, profitable company that's making a very deliberate choice. They're intentionally giving up some easy money today because they believe the chance to build a one, dominant AI education platform for the entire world is just too big of an opportunity to pass up. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. In a world that's being turned upside down by AI, is Duolingo making a simple, short-sighted move? Or are they, very fittingly, playing a much longer, much more strategic game of chess? We'll have to wait and see.